I learned an interesting statistic lately that 95% of YouTube creators fail or in essence give up within the first year. Now that's nothing to laugh about. In fact, it's pretty discouraging for someone like me who's starting a YouTube channel. But after 4 decades of being an entrepreneur, I have learned that in most cases when people start things, the problem or the mistake happens before they even start the thing. So today, what I'm going to share with you is what I'm doing to avoid making that mistake. And the best way to illustrate this is with a story. And it's a story of a really good friend of mine from years ago who moved to Dallas, Texas. And she was looking for a place to live, an apartment that was within her budget. And she was having the hardest time finding a place to move to that she thought was really nice. And after weeks and weeks of searching, she was really getting frustrated and felt like giving up. And I remember she called me one time to talk about this new apartment building that had just been renovated, and she was super excited because she had gone to see it, thought it was amazing. It was in a great location in an up-and-coming area, and she said it was absolutely beautiful, and she signed a year lease. So I actually got to see this place in person, and when I saw it, I have to admit, I was blown away about how nice this place was. This thing was really cool. It was an old factory building or some type of industrial building, about 4 or 5 stories tall. It had been renovated into these really nice high-end apartments. And it was just kind of a cool, unique mix of this old industrial building, big steel beams that went up the walls, very high ceilings, steel beams that went across the top, huge windows that let in a lot of natural light, polished concrete floors mixed in with these really sleek, modern cabinets, high-end everything. And I was actually jealous because the apartment I lived in wasn't nearly as nice as hers. Well, she moved in, and within about a month or so, she was really enjoying living there. Everything about it was perfect. She was like meeting all of these other young professionals and making friends there and everything. And just like I said, this was absolutely perfect on the surface. So a few weeks later, she started noticing these cracks right above the door frames and above the windows and the walls. And they weren't big cracks, but she just thought they were kind of inconvenienced. Didn't think a lot about it. She called the property manager. The property manager told her, hey, don't worry about it. It's just normal settling. It's a newly renovated building. It's to be expected. So he sent some people over there. They patched it up. That was the end of it. She didn't think anything about it. Well, then a few weeks after that, she comes home one day. She said she had a really long day at work. She was super tired, but she had stopped and got some groceries, and she was looking forward to just going in her apartment, cooking a nice dinner in her dream kitchen, and just unwinding and relaxing. But when she showed up at the building, on the front door, there was a piece of paper stuck to it. And she looked at it, and she said she almost fainted when she read what it said. It said, "Building condemned, unsafe for habitation, must vacate immediately." And it had a lot of details about who she had to call to make arrangements to go get her stuff and everything. She thought it was like some kind of a joke or something at first, but then she realized that this was a serious thing. It was a big shock to her. She had to move out. It was a big disruption in her life. She had to find a new place to live. All of her hopes and dreams about living in this wonderful place came crashing down. And I say that figuratively, but the truth is that literally the building had to come crashing down. It was torn down due to an unsafe structure. And it all happened because they failed to consider the most important part of the building, the foundation. Every time I think of that story, I also think about the parable that Jesus used in the Bible to talk about the man who built his house on sand and compared that to the man who built his house on solid rock, and how when the storms came, which in life they always do, the house that was built on sand came crashing down, and the house that was built on solid rock stood firm. Now, obviously, Jesus was using this parable to describe the importance of having a strong spiritual foundation in your life. But what does this have to do with a YouTube channel? Well, it actually has everything to do with the YouTube channel, because the principles that underlie this parable and the real life story are exactly the same, and they apply to anything that you want to build in your life, whether it's a business or a personal relationship or a physical building or even a YouTube channel. So then, what are the elements that make up the foundation to a YouTube channel? Well, in my experience, it boils down to 3 basic elements. Number 1, it's the why. Number 2 is the vision. And number 3 is the who. So let's talk about each one briefly. First of all, the why. Why are you even thinking about starting a YouTube channel? That's the first question that I try to answer within myself, because that is the deepest part of the foundation for starting any venture, is knowing why you're doing it. And that question of why can be very deceptive in a way when you think about it, because there's very shallow answers to that question, but then you can keep asking the question why and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And in my experience, especially at an older age in life, when purpose and meaning, at least for me, have become a lot more important in the things that I do, going deep with the question of why is super, super important. It's just like when you're digging a foundation, you can dig a foot deep, 10 foot deep, 30 foot deep until you hit bedrock. And the deeper you go, the more solid the foundation will be. So you can say, why am I starting the channel? But another question would be, why is starting a channel of any type important for my life? What is my life purpose, the meaning that I want to get out of my life? And how does this YouTube channel fit in with that? That's a deeper level of why, and there are methods to go deeper with your why, but I would encourage you to go as deep as possible, which is what I've been doing for my own channel. All right, now the second element is the vision. And basically what the vision is just a picture of what you want to see in the future with your life. So for me, I think about, okay, I'm 60 years old now. I don't have a lot of time left compared to when I was in my 20s. So what do I want my perfect life to look like over the next 20, 30 years, however much longer I have? What would be the ideal future for me? What does that vision look like? And once you have the vision for your life, then you can also fit the vision for the channel into that overall picture. It's just like the why. The deeper you go with your why, the same applies to your vision. In fact, your vision is a lot like a dream. Children have a really unique ability to dream big dreams. There's no limits on their dreams. But it seems that when we get older and we start taking on more and more responsibilities and get more mature, those responsibilities create what we call realistic expectations, which basically puts limits on our dreams. And our dreams get more and more and more tightly confined in this little realistic expectation box. And we quit dreaming all these big dreams. Well, just like your why, I believe you should go as deep as possible. On my vision, I want to go as big as possible. I want to go as high as possible. I want to dream big dreams just like I did when I was a kid. And so my dream with this channel goes beyond the channel. It's what I would like to do with my life. And the channel is just a piece of that that fits inside of that bigger vision. So number 3 is the who. And the who basically means, who do you want to connect with your channel? If you ask that question, you could go, again, broad with your answer of who you want to serve. It could be a big group of people. But in my opinion, I think it's probably better to go niche or small. I say small. Specific would be a better way to put it. You could do a lot of soul searching around this, but in my opinion, it's probably going to be someone a lot like you, because that's how I am. I'm like, who would I like to hang out with if I weren't doing a YouTube channel? Well, it's going to be people who share the same interests that I share, who have the same passions that I have, who get excited about talking about the same topics that I get excited talking about. And I want to communicate or connect with people like that, which not exactly like me, but people who are similar to me and who share the same interests and passions. So just take those 3 things into consideration, because I believe that if you miss any one of those 3 elements, then I fear that my channel could suffer the same fate that that apartment building suffered, and I'll have to scrap it and rebuild it all over again with the right 3 elements. So to avoid making those mistakes, I'm trying to make sure I answer all 3 of those questions, the why, my vision, and the who, before I ever get started. Hopefully that's helpful to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye.